Welcome to Living Xtreme Hospitality. I'm Michael Brown, your host, and if you're passionate about hospitality, you're in the right place. With over 46 years of industry experience, my mission is simple: elevate hospitality. In this podcast, we'll explore the world of hospitality with industry experts, from organizational tools to personal anecdotes. We'll uncover the secrets of extreme hospitality, but it's not just about us. We want to hear from you. Your input shapes our discussions, fostering a community dedicated to extreme hospitality. Join the conversation and let's make each episode a step towards hospitality excellence. Living extreme hospitality. Taste the difference. Okay, thank you, Living Extreme Hospitality listeners. We are back with Sonya Atkins from Human Edge Resource Solutions, and we are talking about fostering synergy between human resources and operations. We took a quick break, and now we're back again. And wanted to, Sonya, we left off with talking about, the various ways to get the right people on the bus, knowing who you are in business, and having internal employee brand and the value
Yes.
of it. I love when you said it is like our GPS. Now, we know when you bring up
Mhm.
GPS, you're talking to a current generation because everybody uses it. Go ahead and expand on that a little bit, and then we'll jump into the second questions about practical strategies for positive workforce.
Yes. Yes. So the GPS, I often ask employers or employees, if I ask you to go somewhere that you've never been before, but you're not allowed to ask for directions, you're not allowed to use an old school map. You're not allowed to use your navigation in your vehicle or utilize any GPS, any type of GPS technology. But you know the maybe a little bit of the direction you need to go. You know that, hey, I need to go west, I need to go east, I need to go north, I need to go south, but you don't know exactly how to get there. How likely are you to take a few wrong turns or to get lost? And always the answer is very likely. I will get lost. Oh my goodness, you're asking me not to look at a GPS. I follow the blue line all the time. That is exactly my point as to why it's so important for organizations to identify their values, because their values are their GPS. And even getting down and more so into the minutia as we drill down, that's on the top, right? That's the umbrella. But underneath the umbrella are all the operational factors that come into play with that. And that is going to be like job descriptions and key performance metrics and all of those things from an infrastructure standpoint that need to be set up. But it's important that you start with the values first and then work from there, because those values are going to give you and they also are what you utilize as your, when you're making decisions as an organization, as a manager, you should always have those organizational values in the back of your mind, just really resonating and influencing the way you make decisions, the way you communicate or treat others. All of those things come into play. And that is what can really help create a positive workplace culture.
And you mentioned that without that, and say, let's say I'm that person that was told to go in this, just to go this direction, but I didn't have any real understanding and knowledge of where the target is. And so I get frustrated. I decide, you know what, this is not worth it. I'm going to go over to company B, who has better understanding of who they are, has better instruction, and to be successful, because no one likes to get lost. No one likes to feel unfulfilled in their daily work. So, so now you talked about the cost of replacing that employee that decides I'm going over to company B. Talk
Yes.
to me a little bit about there's some numbers I think that in different industries, obviously it's different, but
Sure.
to replace an employee and get them up to speed, what kind of expense are we looking at? And
On
uh,
on average, and depending on where your compensation package is, and when I say your total comp, that's your benefits, the wage, the cost of labor, et cetera. And then also the loss of productivity, which means the loss of revenue for the organization itself, because you don't have that person there to replace them. When you take a look at the recruiting cost, you know, then bringing that person on once you've identified, a candidate, getting them trained up in on the average amount of time that it's going to take, 3 to 6 months, really, before you see a return on your investment in most places. And that's if you have a structured orientation and training process and programs in place to do that. Because if you're a little bit all over the place, it may take you a little bit longer. But you're looking at about 150% of the person's salary that they're replacing. So if you had someone working in your organization that was $100,000 a year, now multiply that times 150%. That's approximately how much it's going to cost you to get that person replaced before you start seeing your return on your investment and getting that replacement up to speed. So that's why it's so very important when we look at this from a numbers perspective. So it's not. I tell organizations, look, I know when I come to you, I'm a different kind of human resources. I'm the human resources you run to, not run from, right? I realize that it's important that you look at it and go, okay, it's not all sunshine and daisies. I get that. So let's talk numbers then. If that's what you're a numbers person, let's talk the numbers, because this is where HR can also show the reason why it's so important for them to partner with the experts, those individuals that can create initiatives that are going to support your goals and helping to contribute to the bottom line on that. And a lot of times, Michael, companies do not see on you're not going to see some of these costs on your financials. These are like the hidden cost, right? This is not a line item. This is that you're going to necessarily see. Of course, your recruiting cost, how much did it cost me to place an ad and things like that, that will be on there. But the actual total loss won't, but it's there. That number is still there because there's going to be a loss in your revenue. So that's why it's so important as an organization to understand your why. Why am I doing this? What is my purpose? And I know that there are some companies out there or some entrepreneurs that may have their own reasons. It's more, their purpose is really from just really from a monetary standpoint. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I would say to a job seeker that if you're looking to place yourself with an organization that really does want to make it good for everyone, because when a business succeeds overall, everyone succeeds, then look at what their company culture is. Okay. You want to
wonderful.
take a look at that company culture.
So I'm Mr. Entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, and I'm starting my company and I'm putting together my business plan. How long prior to launching my business should I invest in creating these company values, this roadmap that we're speaking about, so that when we actually do launch, I'm not making things up. I am actually, I have the onboarding process is all set up and ready to go. And obviously, nothing is 100%. It's always a work in progress. But what amount of time should I invest in prior to launching to having this strong foundation solid with somebody, a professional like yourself, um, and whatever resources I'm using to get that together? What would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be is that you really do need to commit about 8 to 10 hours of time, and I'm not saying that has to be all in one day, but as an entrepreneur, because we do have so many other things on our plate that this is just not somewhere that you want to mess up. It is so very important to today's workforce culture. What we now have so many different generations. We have more generations in our workforce today than we ever have before. So identifying who you are as an employer and your employer brand and your employer values definitely warrants you taking the time. So I would say at least take 8 to 10 hours of dedicated time to develop that strategy, to develop that brand. And then if you are, and I would say you need to do it before you open your doors. Okay. This needs to be done before you open your doors. And then even after you open your doors, you're going to want to visit it again. And at that point, if you've brought in managers or other leadership into the fold, or maybe some other employees that are team leads, and you've had a little bit of time, maybe 30 to 90 days into this, I would say revisit it again, because business evolves, and this allows you the opportunity to tweak what needs to be tweaked and bring some individuals into it so that they can also contribute to that as well, and they can let you know, hey, this, not really sure if I understand what this brand is about, or here's something else that we didn't think of before that we should add. I think it's very important for entrepreneurs to lean on the strengths of others, and talents of others within their organization when they bring them on. Because today's workforce, they want to feel like they contribute, that they're bringing value to the table, and that it's a collaborative environment, and that there's transparency in the workforce. So this is one of those ways where, as an entrepreneur, you can also do that. So before you open your doors, this is something you need to dedicate time to. 30 to 90 days into it, you need to revisit it again. And then I would say revisit it annually.
That is so powerful. I guess I'm a slow learner because I've spent way more than 8 to 10 hours working on my company values. I want to say
Mhm.
years, but to your point, it's a work in progress, and you keep revisiting it. And what happens
Yes.
with me, I keep hearing, I keep getting new inspirations almost daily as to who we are, what we're about, and I put it in writing. I'm a, I also use AI to get my
Yes.
thoughts into organization. I believe these questions that you see here are not are me going to AI and saying, I have Sonya Atkins coming in on such and such a date, and we're talking about this, that, and the other. Tell me some good questions I can ask her. And it gave
Mhm.
these questions. And I look at AI as this. It is not a replacement, but it's like my executive team.
Exactly.
If I had an executive team of an HR person, a writer, a blogger, and blah, 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 I'd walk into that room and I'd say, "Hey, hey team, this is my
Yes.
vision. I need you
Yes.
to write me a press release. I need you to
Mhm.
write me blah blah blah." And then when I look at it, I review it, I see if it matches with exactly what I'm thinking, and if it
Mhm.
does, beautiful,
Yes.
because it talks better than I can talk.
Yeah.
You know,
But Michael, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give you, and you're going to love this. Okay. Particularly you, because of what it is that you do, who you are as a chef. Okay. This is how I explain AI, and why I'm such an advocate for it. And I've, this has been a trending conversation. I'm so glad you brought up the AI topic and how it can help create, how it can be a useful resource and tool to your teams. And so I'm an advocate for companies to, because one, you want to make sure. And by the way, little side note here: if you're a company that decides to use AI resources, make sure you have some policies in place so that, or individuals in your organization know the do's and don'ts. Okay. I've got to put my HR hat on that one for a little bit of tidbit advice for that. But when I explain AI to other HR professionals that may be a little worried about, oh my goodness, the robots are going to come and take our jobs. Like, no. If you do not, if you only fear what you do not know, okay? And if you learn it and learn the correct way to utilize it, it is a great resource tool to help you. If to your point, it's an assistant. So I say it's like this. You still have to know the recipe. So you go in and you're going to tell it, these are the ingredients. I know what
Yes.
the outcome is going to be. I know that I want a 5 layer, you know, chocolate mousse cake, just wonderful, beautiful cake. I know that's what the outcome is. And I know primarily what the ingredients are. So I'm going to give those ingredients to AI and let them bake the cake. They're basically, pouring it and stirring it and doing whatever else needs to be
Yeah.
done to it and
Yeah.
putting it in the oven and letting it bake. But you told it what it needed to use. That is the part where I don't believe will replace the human aspect that's still going to be needed because it's the heart of what we're doing. When you build a recipe, Michael, you've you know the ingredients because you've worked at this and you've experimented with it, you've put your heart into it. Now you have that knowledge, but it's like, look, I don't need to spend 2 hours of my day baking this cake. I know what the outcome is going to be. I just need to tell him to. So that's just a little bit of my take on the use of AI. I'm a big advocate, and I've actually trained under one of the world's best AI quote unquote whisperers, as we'll call him, and it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal use, but people only fear what they do not know, and there's a difference between unhealthy fear and healthy fear. But it's an unhealthy fear when we go, oh my goodness, it's going to take it away. So learn to utilize it as your assistant. So it was a great point to that. When we talk about how can you use that to help you with your values, you're going to do exactly what you've been doing. Every time you have a thought, you write it down, and it can help structure those things out for you. But I think that we want to make sure we keep the human aspect to it as well. So that's why I say, as business owners, once we have that business where we have other team members coming into play, maybe revisit it, go back and always look at what it is that you need to do, because business evolves and so do
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring out was, in discovering who you are as a business, use friends, family, past successes to really determine that. So we opened our first restaurant in 1989, and we had a logbook, and the logbook people would leave comments. So some of those same comments that were really like, I mean, and the comments were extraordinary. Now that's part of my DNA as a future
Mhm.
restaurateur. So so everything that I've done in the past has built up to who I am currently. And so
Mhm.
I can talk to old high school mates, and they'll
Yes.
say, "Hey, chef, man, when I came in and I ate your shrimp creole, it was just the flavors were so pronounced without being overly salty, and I felt really good the next day." So part of that is my DNA in
Mhm.
producing the future menu recipes in my future restaurants. So I would encourage people to also, use family, friends, and the positive things that they've already spoken of you to go into your who you are as an entrepreneur. Um,
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to, speak on that because
Mhm.
um using the food analogy, I'm just going to say, your workforce can be a really amazing award-winning etouffee or gumbo. I just want to say that, Michael, because I thought you could really appreciate it. And this is the reason I say this. Because when you're looking to build that positive workforce culture, and you're going to start with what the ingredients are, and there's going to be a mix of all kinds of things. And that's where, how can I create this inclusive environment for this particular recipe to come out really great. And just utilizing that analogy for those restaurateurs out there that may be listening, that, and then depending on what it is that you utilize to season it with is depending on what the outcome you're going to have. So what are you going to season your business with to produce the positive workforce culture
You go
that you're
ahead.
looking to produce?
Look at you. I love it. I love it. I love it. Boy, I remember sending a cover letter to get a job right out of culinary and restaurant management school, where I put myself, I wrote a letter to the woman, I remember Joyce Traxler, and I said, let me present myself as a menu. And so I took
Mhm.
a piece of nice color paper,
I love it.
typed out the letter,
Oh,
and then burnt the edges, so that
oh
and then put it on
yes.
a background, and so and put plastic over it. And so basically,
That's
I was like handing
fantastic.
her. So when she got it from the delivery company, it was like a menu, and then it was like
Uh-huh.
George Traxler. I closed the statement by saying, George Traxler, uh, I really feel like I'm the right person for this job. I can practically taste it. I used little analogies like that. And then when I started, I said, like a chef saves bones and to make good stock, so have I been saving, cultivating my background by adding all these valuable ingredients. So really that's really a key analogy that you just put together. I wanted to
That is
also,
great. I love that. What creativity. And you know what? You just said something else that I want to talk about. You said the bones and the stock. So that's what we're talking about. What is it that you're going to put together? What are the very basics, the infrastructure that you're going to create? And these values are just as important as anything else that you're going to put into place
mhm.
for infrastructure for your business. Okay. These are the things that you're going to pull out of your recipe box every time there is something that you need to make a decision or an initiative that you need to create, a process. Those things you're going to think about that. And that's why I say it's so important for you to understand, you need to have your why, you need to know what your purpose is, because the workforce today, in order to attract and retain talent, they also want to know that you know what your purpose is.
So since you're on this food analogy, I'm going to take what you just said a step further. I wrote down the bones and the stock. Now, you can't just make a stock and not taste it, right? You have to
Correct.
taste it to make sure that it has the right amount of seasoning to it so that it will go into making multiple sauces.
Yes.
So what do? You have your staff taste it. I used to all the time, I'd make something, taste this, taste this. So that speaks to the
Yes.
ongoing the ongoing evaluation of
Hmm.
your core values. So you may think that you're functioning properly in your core values, but
Hmm.
what does your staff think? So ask,
Exactly.
what do they think? How am I doing? Well, am I living out the extreme hospitality that I'm professing? And they will
Exactly.
tell you yay or nay. So talk to me about what is it
Of
we have to
course.
do to, is it periodic evaluations? Is it just looking at the
Yeah.
expression on their faces? What do we do to know that we are hitting the target?
So, let's just talk about, first of all, when you're hitting the target or creating that positive workforce culture, it starts with the leadership commitment. Okay. It cascades down through that consistent actions and behaviors that you were just talking about. That's where it starts. You can't just give, the lip service and say this is who we are and what we want if you're not ready to, live that out yourself. Because if you're not committed to that as an organization, your workforce culture will have a negative impact on your workforce culture. And unfortunately, in my 34 years, I've seen that happen as well, you know. And that's why HR can play such a pivotal role in shaping that culture by implementing policies and programs that are going to prioritize the employee's well-being, diversity, and inclusion. Um, for example, maybe, and I realize that not all organizations can do this, but I say all organizations should at least take a look at it before just saying no, absolutely not. Maybe it's something like, hey, you're going to offer those flexible work arrangements, to accommodate diverse types of needs that are out there. You're going to provide the training and the development that needs to take. You're going to focus on training people how not to have the unconscious bias that we see so prevalent today. You want to promote that. It's important for the leaders to not only walk the talk, as we say, because all of these things are going to contribute to that culture where employees are going to feel valued and motivated to basically contribute to your operational success. I mean, let's look at some of those companies out there that have such operational success that are noted for their culture, for their workforce culture and what they're doing. Well, some of your largest tech companies out there, right? But what hospitality are you as a leader utilizing in those values? If you're not willing to eat your own recipe, how do you expect anyone else to do that? How do you expect anyone else to eat it? What chef doesn't taste his or her own food?
As we're speaking here, I'm writing down the word therapy. And the reason why I write therapy is because I've heard a therapist say, which back in the day was taboo, that even a therapist needs a therapist. My wife has a trainer, a physical trainer, and the physical trainer has a physical trainer. And so as entrepreneurs, um, I think that HR can help us to explore our own therapeutic needs so that we can actually become better leaders as opposed to just become, if we stay the same, we're already behind the game, right? It's like pushing a car up, like pushing a car up a hill, right? If you stop pushing, excuse me, you end up losing ground. You actually have the potential of being rolled over backwards. There's a beautiful story I heard once before about a man who was asked to push a car up a hill, and he said, "I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting. He's just moving it inch by inch." And so he was pushing his car up a hill, but he didn't give up. He kept sticking to it. And then he actually talked to God. And he said, "God, why do you have me doing this?" And he said, "Well, I had you doing this because I wanted you to build muscle." He said, "Now get out the way while I push the car up the hill." Now, I haven't said that. I haven't heard that for like 25 years, so I probably didn't get it accurate 100%, but you understand the concept.
I do understand the concept. Yes.
Putting yourself to the task, trying to be true to your values yourself. And if you have that right heart, God will help you get it, help others to achieve their goals.
Right. And it's exactly. And how is that going to contribute to operational success? And how are we creating that to create that hospitality as individuals in an organization? This is where I coach in my leadership development trainings, where I do one-on-one leadership development coaching. This is something that we really take a look at things from within. You know, taking that look introspectively at ourselves and what it is that we can do, and operations and human resources, we need to look at that. And what are the things that we constantly need to work on and develop? If you get to the point to where you do not think that you need to develop anymore, then you might as well just, you know, I don't want to say give up, give up the towel or give it up, but that's pretty much where it's going to be, because industry demands it, workforce trends demand it, and we should always be looking for a way to make ourselves better. How can, and that's what I do. I'm constantly looking for ways that I can make myself better. And I want to speak to this also in the to entrepreneurs out there that are working on their business and in their business. At some point, you're going to come to that, you can't be it all or do it all. So you're going to have to recognize that about yourself. You have certain strengths, yes, that got you to where you're at. But what can you do now to give some hospitality to yourself and some grace to yourself? And from an organizational standpoint, can you bring someone in that may have a strength, whereas you have an opportunity, for an area of needs of improvement, to bring that in and help that? And really, also organizationally, if you're already a established organization, you should always be looking at that. Here's where our strengths are. Here are where our weaknesses are. What do we need to do to work on these weaknesses? How can we leverage our strengths to help that, with that operationally as well?
You know what? It's funny because we're definitely on the same page here because as you were talking, you kind of hesitated about using the word give up, right?
Hmm.
And and I wrote down give up, no, give way, yes. And when then after I wrote that down, you talked about bringing in other people that can take your business to the next level because there's no one that says that you have to um, always function as the leader or as you always have to. Let's just put it this way: your organization is in its own microcosm, right? And
Yes.
you might have at one point had the full inspiration and the full energy and everything to get it to where it is. But sometimes you have to step down as CEO and put
Hmm.
another CEO in place who has the energy, who has the vision, who's willing to take it to the next level. And there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. That's not giving up.
Right.
It's giving way to,
Hmm.
even like Steve Ells was the former, he's a founder of Chipotle. Okay. And he gave way to his attorney to become the CEO for 11 years and he stepped down from
Hmm.
that position. Sometimes
Hmm.
it could be just because you have other interests you want to be involved in.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it could be because you know what, it's time to just ride off into the sunset, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. And I
yeah.
agree. I agree with you on that. Some of the most successful organizations that I know or have had a privilege to work work for when I was in the corporate setting before starting my own company, that's what they did. And they were family owned businesses. And we're talking about revenue multi-billion, located in several states, very large businesses, family owned and operated, but they placed someone as a CEO into that seat to help carry out their vision, because one, entrepreneurs are what? They're very visionary.
Mhm.
And that's even something that I've realized about myself. I have these, I'm very visionary, and even though I'm very process oriented as well, but now as a business owner, I have to go, okay, wait a minute. I have my why, because I can't forget my why of what it is that I'm doing. And if my weaknesses are going to hold me back from my purpose, then what it is, my why, then who is it that I need to bring on board or put into place to help me carry out that purpose and that vision, right?
And before you
So,
go on, Sonia, I want to say I
yeah,
have a minute left here, but I want you to tell the people more how they can find you, your website, and talk. Just give me some closing statements. You have about
sure.
40 seconds.
Okay. Well, you can find me at www.humanedgeresourcesolutions.com. We are here located in Houston, but again, we are the HR you do not run from. We are the HR you run to, and we will come to you. We are very concierge and we love to help entrepreneurs. We've got more than 50 years of combined experience. You can also reach us at our phone number of 833-437-7482. We're happy to talk with you about your unique needs and your objectives and meet you where you're at with that.
Thank you, Sonya Atkins, bringing the human back to human resources, featuring the lovely Sonya Atkins-Goodman. And we're here talking about fostering synergy between human resources and operations, living extreme hospitality. God bless you, everyone. We love you. Thank you for joining us today. It's a wrap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Living Extreme Hospitality. Taste the difference.